Welcome to Brush Square. This little patch of green in the city packs quite the historic punch, with 3 different museums located within its boundaries. The Susanna Dickinson Museum, the O. Henry Museum, and the Austin Fire Museum. This square was actually one of 4 original squares planned for the city of Austin.
The 4 original downtown squares can be seen in this 1839 Waller plan. Brush Square was named in 1888 after prominent Austin merchant Seba Bogart Brush. He used the square to store cotton prior to his death in 1874. Parts of Brush Square have been used throughout the years as a public market, railroad depot, cotton yard, and even as a parking lot in the 1950s. In 1969, the square luckily escaped the fate of being turned into a permanent parking lot when the Parks and Recreation Board, along with the Heritage Society of Austin, rejected this proposal.
Today, there's no shortage of tall buildings and parking garages here in Austin. But thanks to their intervention, we can still cool off in the shade of the trees here in Brush Square.
In 1934, the O. Henry House was moved from nearby 4th Street and became a museum. And in 1939, Fire Station No. 1 was built next door. The Dickinson Museum was a late arrival in 2003, but needed a new place to rest, as it had been forced out of its old home, where the Hilton now stands across the street. If you're curious, 3 of the original 4 squares are still in use today, and combined with a quick stop at the Capitol Square, make a nice little tour of downtown Austin. Nearby Republic Square, originally named Hemphill, also functioned as a parking lot between 1950 to the 1970s. As part of the U.S. Bicentennial celebration in 1976, Austin renamed the square to Republic Square and restored its original purpose as a public gathering place. Austin's original Mexican and Tejano community used this square for concerts, dances, and other community events. And today, visitors can still enjoy some of these traditions by visiting the Mexicarte Museum and enjoying the annual Dia de los Muertos celebration, among others. Woolwood Square, originally called Bell, is a few blocks up, and right next door to the Austin History Center. It too was left alone and vacant until 1909, when Mayor Woolridge approved and funded improvements for this little park. It is known for its historic bandstand and has hosted many famous speakers, including Booker T. Washington and President Lyndon Johnson. The park is a natural amphitheater and is still used for musical performances and picnics. From Woolridge, you can bump up to visit Capitol Square. There's too much history here to summarize quickly, but hey, this is the capital of Texas. You simply have to visit if you are in the area. And take a bit of time to soak in the history and the current events that regularly keep this political hub hopping. The 4th square on the top right, originally named Hamilton, is no longer a public square. It is now home to the First Baptist Church. But this square has seen a lot of history come and go, including the founding of Samuel Houston College, which later merged with Tillotson College to Houston-Tillotson College, which became the sole provider of higher education for African Americans in Central Texas until the Brown v. Board of Education decision in 1954. It was also where the first structure for Austin High School was built in 1900 after being housed at the old state capitol building since 1881. The square was also home to the Wesley Methodist Episcopal Church, a congregation of freed slaves founded in the Austin area in 1865 after the end of the Civil War. The Wesley Chapel was a beautiful building and later purchased by the Austin School Board to be used as a gymnasium in 1928. 1928 was also the year the city of Austin adopted a master plan advocating for the creation of a Negro district in East Austin. This effectively segregated the city by relocating black schools and facilities to East Austin. The school building was damaged by fire and removed, along with the chapel, in 1956. and only a year later was purchased by the First Baptist Church.
Many people can agree that the squares were a great idea in a rapidly growing city. I can appreciate that we're still able to hang out under the trees in at least 3 of them. However, I must say I'm a bit partial to Brush Square. Before heading out to explore Austin, take a look around Brush Square for the rest of our Picture the Past trail markers.